Good afternoon, and thank you for spending a little bit of your midday with us today. I'm Paul Johnson. I'm the program manager for the Wyoming SBDC Cybersecurity for Small Business program. We also have program assistants Ian Moon and Mari Reed on board here. So today we're going to talk about some tips for training your staff on cybersecurity. But before we get into that, I want to remind you that the Wyoming Small Business Development Center Network is here to serve all your small business needs with no cost, confidential advising throughout the state. The SBDC is funded by the U.S. Small Business Administration and the Wyoming Business Council and hosted by the University of Wyoming. This webinar is presented as a component of our Cybersecurity for Small Business pilot program, which is completely funded by the U.S. SBA. To contact an advisor or browse the many resources on our website, including a huge library of recorded webinars, you can visit us online at wyomingsbdc.org. So let's take a look at where we're going here today. First, I want to kind of give an overview of some ideas for how you can implement an ongoing training and awareness program in your organization. Give you some tips for how to deliver some of that training, no matter what size your organization is. And then Mari and Ian are going to walk us through 12 cybersecurity topics that you might select to train your team. And then we'll talk a little bit about the SBDC Cybersecurity for Small Business program. If you have any questions as we're going through this, feel free to drop those in the chat and we will get to those as they come up or at the end, depending on where we are with things. So first, let's take a look at the overall idea about cybersecurity training and awareness. One of the things that one of our training partners at the Cyber Readiness Institute talks about is ongoing staff awareness and training is the most important thing you can do, because we know that cybersecurity is not necessarily a technology issue, it is a culture issue in a lot of cases. And to not just look at cyber readiness as just a task to check off, like, okay, trained my employees once on this, we're done talking about cybersecurity. You really need to create a culture of cyber readiness that is an ongoing conversation between you and your staff, or between yourself and research that's out there if you're a one-person shop. Because we don't want to live in fear of cyber attacks, but we want to be vigilant about the current threats and overall organizational readiness. You know, how can you spot cyber attacks? What do you do if you are attacked? How do you recover from it? And what measures do you put in place to not be attacked again? Those are the basic topics that you want to have a constant conversation with your staff about, so that we're not just sitting around waiting to be picked off in some sort of hack or scam. We are in a pro position, positive position to not be experiencing any of those things because we have measures in place. So let's look at a general way to look about planning your cybersecurity training for your staff. Now, today we're going to present 12 topics. We kind of frame this as, pick a topic of the month and use that as a conversation or training point for your staff. So Mari and Ian will give those to you. The most important thing, though, is to put it on your calendar, just like you would anything else in your business, like a social media posting calendar, inventory, monthly cash flow report. Make sure that it's on there, like the second Tuesday of the month or something is when you are going to start the conversation on your topic for the month with your staff, or maybe the first Monday of the month, so you can do it all month long. So maybe you have a larger staff, 5 to 10 people. Again, the Cyber Readiness Institute suggests that you designate a cyber leader in your organization. Maybe that person can be responsible for putting these training topics out there and information for your staff every month. Maybe you can rotate it among several people, so you share the organizational institutional knowledge on cybersecurity topics. Again, if you have a larger staff, you want to choose some methods to constantly communicate with them on this topic, and I'll talk about that on the next slide, some concrete ideas for the ways that other organizations do it. But maybe you are just on your own, a 1 or 2 person shop, or 1 person full-time, 1 person part-time. You can also do ongoing cyber awareness training for yourself. Again, put it on your calendar. set an hour aside for research on a topic, or use the time to do a cybersecurity task like changing passwords, making sure your antivirus is working correctly, doing a system scan. Just take some consistent time and put it in your calendar that this is another thing that I need to do to keep my business protected and prevent it from being scammed or my credibility being shot because of my shoddy cybersecurity habits. So even though we're talking about, okay, here's 12 topics, put these on your calendar, you know what? Things might change. There might be a certain threat that comes up that you need to address immediately. There's a new phishing scam out there that you want to make your staff aware of. So even though you're choosing topics, be aware of the climate and what's happening in the world of cybersecurity and any news that you're hearing that you might want to share. So how do we deploy this information? So we've got several ideas here. Maybe you send out a couple of emails a month. Hey, did you hear about this with password security? Remember, this is our policy, or this scam's going around related to this issue. We want to make sure that you're aware of it. If you have formal staff meetings, like we see here in this photo, maybe you do a quick presentation. We've developed some materials that are already ready to go on several topics, and if you're interested in those, shoot me an email. My email address will come up here at the end. We also have some other materials like break room poster and employee checklists that you might use. So I know a lot of organizations have stand-up meetings on Monday or Tuesday or whatever day of the week it is. This might be a good topic to throw in once a month or twice a month during your stand-up check-in meetings. So it's not so formal. You can make it more of an ongoing conversation. Formal presentations seem to put people on edge a little bit sometimes, and they think, oh, here's another thing he's asking us to do. So I think making cybersecurity conversations informal and ongoing is a great way to fight against that, oh, here's another thing that we have to do. You might ask an expert. Maybe you could invite somebody. Maybe you have an IT contractor who could come in and speak briefly at a staff meeting or in one of those stand-up discussions. That's another idea if you have those resources and know those people. And I mentioned this before, but you know, a simple break room tips poster of the month is a great thing to post in the lunchroom or wherever employees tend to gather for those kinds of things. So again, we have some of those resources available. If you would reach out to me, I'd be glad to share them with you. All right, so let's get into these 12 hot topics that Mari and Ian have selected. And we're going to start with Mari's list.
All right, thanks, Paul. So let's get into phishing and social engineering. Now, this is basically when hackers pretend to be someone you trust to trick you into giving up information or clicking on something malicious. They'll send you emails that look like they're from your bank or call pretending to be tech support, or even text you saying your Amazon account is compromised. Here's why this matters so much for small businesses. This is literally how 95% of successful cyber attacks start. The hackers aren't trying to break down your digital walls anymore. They're just walking right through the front door by tricking your employees. It's way easier to fool a person than to hack a firewall. So what do you need to train people on? First, slow down and think before you click. Look for weird urgencies like your account will be closed in 30 minutes, or obvious typos and grammar mistakes. And here's the golden rule. If someone reaches out to you unexpectedly, verify who they are through a different method. If you get a suspicious email from your boss, walk over and ask them about it. Now let's talk passwords and multi-factor authentication. Password hygiene is just a fancy word of saying don't use terrible passwords. We're talking about creating strong, unique passwords for every single account. And MFA, or multi-factor authentication, is that extra step where you get a text code or tap an app to prove that it's really you. So why does this matter? Because password 123 isn't protecting anything anymore. Hackers have tools that can try millions of password combinations per second. And if your employees are using the same password everywhere, one breach means they're all compromised. It's like having the same key for your house, car, and office. Here's what to train on. Get everyone using a password manager. These tools create strong passwords and remember them for you. And turn on multi-factor authentication everywhere you can, especially email, banking, and any business applications. Even if someone steals your password, they still can't get in without that second step. So let's talk about being safe online. This is about navigating the digital world without falling into the traps cybercriminals have for us. We're talking about avoiding malicious websites and not opening dangerous attachments. Why is it such a big deal? Well, let's think about it. Big corporations have entire IT teams and fancy security software filtering everything. But small businesses, you're often on your own. One wrong click on a sketchy website or one bad email attachment, and suddenly you've got malware spreading through your entire network. So, what do you train people on? First, stick to legitimate websites. Don't click on random ads or pop ups, and never download software from sites you don't trust. For emails, be super suspicious of unexpected attachments, especially if they end in .exe or zip or .scr. These are common ways to deliver malware. And if you get an attachment you weren't expecting, even from someone you know, reach out and confirm they actually sent it. Now, device security and remote work practices is about keeping your devices that touch your business data secure, whether that's company laptops, personal phones, or tablets people use for work. This has become huge because remote work is more prevalent than ever. People are working from coffee shops, using personal devices for business, and connecting to who knows what network. An unsecured laptop in a public place can become a highway straight to your business systems. Here's what to train on. Always lock your devices when you step away. Don't do sensitive work on public Wi-Fi. Use your phone's hotspot or a VPN instead. Keep all your software updated because those updates often fix security holes. And if people are using personal devices for work, make sure they have some kind of security software installed. Device security brings us to our next critical area. Let's talk about data protection and handling sensitive information. This is basically about being smart with the important stuff: customer information, financial records, employee data, trade secrets. How do you store it, share it, and get rid of it safely? Here's why this is so important for small businesses. A data breach can literally put you out of business. We're talking about fines, lawsuits, and customers who will never trust you again. And here's the kicker: many small business owners don't even realize they're handling regulated data until something goes wrong. So what do you need to train on? First, know what data you have that's sensitive. Then use proper tools for storing and sharing it. Encrypted cloud storage, secure file sharing, and never emailing sensitive stuff in plain text. When you're done with data, actually delete it properly. Don't just throw old computers in the trash. And follow the rule of least access. Only give people access to the data they actually need to do their job. Finally, recognizing and reporting security incidents. This is about knowing when something suspicious is happening and having a clear, simple process for reporting it immediately. Why is this so critical? The average data breach goes undetected for almost 10 months. For small businesses, that's the difference between a minor hiccup and a company-ending disaster. The faster you can catch something, the less damage it can do. Here's what to train on. Create a simple way for people to report problems. One phone number, one email, one person they can reach quickly. Train everyone to report anything weird immediately, like unexpected password reset emails, computers running slowly, strange network activity, or if they think they might have fallen for a phishing scam. And make it clear that reporting a potential problem is always the right thing to do, even if it turns out to be nothing. Remember, cybersecurity isn't just the IT person's job, it's everyone's responsibility. The best defense you have is a team that knows what to look for and isn't afraid to speak up when something seems off. Now, Ian will be going over the next 6 topics.
Thank you, Maury. So now we're going to talk about physical security. And what does that mean? It's talking about the usage of removable drives and proper disposal of old drives. This is because hackers can program USB drives to execute code insanely quickly to the point where the second you plug it in, you're already done. So you need to be aware of this and have a policy of not just using USB drives and not plugging them into computers just because you want to know whose it is and who should be using it. In addition to that, whenever you delete data on a drive, it's not actually been deleted. So Whenever you are looking to upgrade your computers, changing out hard drives, you need to make sure that you are properly destroying them, whether that's breaking a solid state drive in half or simply drilling a hole into a hard disk drive. This will properly ensure that no one can ever access that information ever again. In addition to this topic, we also have the clean desk policy. Clean desk policy can basically be as simple as not having sensitive information open on your desk at any given time, that being passwords, important data, or anything that could be used to gain an upper hand or could be used to compromise specific systems. So this means don't have passwords on sticky notes, and make sure that you have a screensaver set up for your computer so that way anyone walking past can't just see what you've been working on. Moving on, we have ransomware awareness, software updates, and patch management. Ransomware awareness is basically going to be knowing how to spot when ransomware attack is happening and understanding how to defend against them. Ransomware is basically when an attack happens and it encrypts all the data on a drive that you cannot easily access or gain the key to. Now, the easiest way to defend against this is to simply have backups of these drives. Sure, you might lose a day or two of progress, but that's much better than trying to work with these people, pay them out, or to try and find a way to get your information back. Rolling back a day or two is much better than trying to reason with these people. Moving on to software updates and patches, it's important to install security patches as soon as possible. That doesn't mean instantly. It's as soon as possible, and keeping backups of patches in case those cause problems. As whenever you upgrade systems, sometimes some of your old files or old programs don't always work on them. So it's important to have scheduled downtime where nothing is really happening and you can go through all the systems and update them all at once. So that way not one computer is simply off to the side, still running old software that hackers could potentially exploit in order to gain access to the rest of the system. Next, we're going back to social media, public information risk, and insider threats. So social media and public information risk is going back to the social engineering aspect that we talked about earlier. This is where people try and gain information by going through your social media, figuring out personal information about you and what they could potentially do to either pull on your heartstrings or convince you that they are a trustworthy person. It's important to keep work-related information, personal info tied to passphrases, and your certain level of importance to a company relatively vague on these websites. That way, anyone looking to potentially get into your business don't have an easily accessible target, so that way they can go, this person. If I send them phishing emails or do this, I can get into their system. In addition to that, we have insider threats. Now, insider threats is referring to employees, whether that's whenever you're terminating an employee or employees may be feeling a bit disgruntled and they want to retaliate against the business. It's important to be aware of them because they can potentially start causing problems, such as sharing secrets, leaving open doors into systems, and have potential retaliations. So knowing how to properly terminate employees, deny them access to their old systems, and ensure that once they are out of the company that they cannot come back in case anything bad happens is very important. And finally, we're just going to talk about cybersecurity awareness and culture. Awareness is going to be focusing on the knowledge of important systems and data along with what security you have for them. It's important to sort of know what it is that you're doing for your systems and what you have in place in order to protect them. It's not always about knowing what recent attacks and how those could potentially influence you, but rather knowing about the recent attacks that you use, systems that you use that were compromised in recent attacks. And then the culture comes down to very basic things. Never trust, always verify, use long passwords, passphrases, multi-factor authentication or MFA, and just knowing how to respond. Keeping these ideas in mind and remembering to use them, even when you're not at work, is the greatest way to sort of help continue to build that culture. It's that constant improvement and constant reminders of what you should be doing and what you can be doing. And I will go ahead and pass it back to Paul here to close us out.
All right. Thank you, Mari. Thank you, Ian. Now, before I talk about our program a little bit here, a couple of things I want to note. First is, how do I train my employees on these topics? I'm not a cybersecurity expert. Well, there are plenty of websites out there from cybersecurity vendors and antivirus vendors who provide loads of easy to understand information on these topics on their websites. So basic internet searches will find you credible sources for information that you can share with your employees. You do not have to become an expert in all these areas. The other thing I wanted to mention was, yeah, we've said here's 12 topics. Talk about your employees with them once a month for 12 months. Well, you know, some of these things should be part of your onboarding process and should be in your administrative and employee policies for onboarding. So this is also kind of a good checklist or survey of topics that you might want to put into an onboarding program. But also, the conversation needs to be ongoing. So just because you onboard somebody on your password policies doesn't mean that they may consistently put it in place or may forget what it was. So having ongoing checks on these topics over the course of a year and being very consistent and vigilant about it is just a great way to, as I've said many times already, keep that conversation going about cybersecurity and make it a part of your ongoing operations. So cyber readiness is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not a task to check off. It's something that you need to have an ongoing awareness in your organization about. And you need to create a plan, regardless of your business size. Again, if it's just you, this is an ongoing knowledge base that you need to have and practices that you need to use. So feel free to use these 12 topics, add your own, be ready to change if other threats come up, but just be consistent and intentional about it. And our Cybersecurity for Small Business program here is for you. We provide one-on-one advising on cybersecurity topics, either for a longer-term commitment or just to help you with a problem. Feel free to reach out to me directly or go to our website at wyomingsbdc.org/cybersecurity program.